There is an island in the middle of the South Atlantic Ocean where you cannot fly in. There is no airport. There are no daily ferries. And the normal journey from Cape Town, South Africa, takes about 6 days by ship. Even after 6 days at sea, reaching the island is not guaranteed. The ocean has to be calm enough, the weather has to allow it, and sometimes after traveling thousands of kilometers, visitors still have to wait offshore before they can land. This is Tristan da Cunha, a tiny volcanic island surrounded by nothing but ocean. To most people, it sounds impossible, but for a small community of people, this remote island is simply home. Welcome to Beyond the Map. Today, we are traveling to one of the most isolated inhabited places on Earth, a place so remote that the map almost fails to explain it. A place where life is not shaped by airports, highways, or instant delivery. It is shaped by the sea, by weather, by ships, by patience, and by a community that has learned how to survive far away from almost everyone else. This is the story of Tristan da Cunha, the island so remote that getting there takes 6 days. To understand Tristan da Cunha, you first have to understand where it is. Look at a map of the Atlantic Ocean, now find South Africa. Near the southwestern tip of the continent is Cape Town. From there, you have to look far out into the ocean, very far. About 2,810 kilometers, or 1,750 miles, away from Cape Town, you find a tiny dot in the South Atlantic. That dot is Tristan da Cunha. It is not on a regular tourist route. It is not a place you visit by accident, and it is definitely not a place where you can book a quick weekend trip. The official way to reach the island is by ship from Cape Town. The crossing normally takes 6 days, but the journey does not end the moment the island appears on the horizon. Because on Tristan, even arrival depends on the weather. There is no airport on Tristan da Cunha, no runway, no regular air connection, no emergency flight waiting nearby. The sea is the island's road. Ships bring people, ships bring supplies, ships bring mail, equipment, food, and news from the outside world. But ships do not arrive every day. They follow schedules that depend on the ocean, the weather, and the long distance from Cape Town. And visitors cannot simply arrive whenever they want. Permission is required to land. Berths on ships are limited. Trips must be planned far in advance. In many places, travel is about convenience. On Tristan da Cunha, travel is about permission, timing, patience, and luck. And that is what makes this island feel different before you even step onto it. The main settlement on the island is called Edinburgh of the Seven Seas, but locals often call it simply the settlement. And that name says a lot, because this is not a big city. It is not even a town in the way most people imagine one. It is a small cluster of homes, roads, public buildings, and community spaces sitting between the Atlantic Ocean and steep volcanic slopes. From above, the settlement looks almost unreal. A handful of houses pressed against the coast. Behind them, a massive green and black mountain rises into the clouds. In front of them, waves crash against dark volcanic rock. There are very few places on Earth where human life feels this small against nature. But on Tristan, that contrast is part of everyday life. The ocean is always there. The mountain is always there. And between them, the community continues. Life on Tristan da Cunha is not like life in a modern city. In a city, if you need something, you can usually get it. A store is nearby. A delivery can arrive tomorrow. A hospital may be a short drive away. An airport can connect you to another country in a few hours. On Tristan, distance changes everything. Supplies have to be planned. Repairs have to be managed carefully. Food, tools, medicine, fuel, and equipment all depend on ships. If something breaks, you cannot always replace it immediately. If something is delayed, the whole community may feel it. This creates a very different kind of daily life. People cannot depend on endless convenience. They depend on each other. That is one of the most important things about Tristan da Cunha. Isolation is not just geography. It becomes a way of organizing life, a way of thinking, a way of surviving. The island's economy is built around the things that the island can actually provide. Fishing is extremely important. One of Tristan's best-known exports is Tristan rock lobster. The cold waters around the island support a lobster fishery that connects this tiny community to markets far beyond the South Atlantic. Farming is also part of daily life. On land, families grow crops and keep livestock. Potatoes are especially important to island life. There are also sheep, cattle, and other animals. This combination of fishing and farming gives Tristan a level of self-sufficiency that many modern communities have lost. But self-sufficient does not mean easy. The land is limited, the weather can be harsh, the ocean can be dangerous, and everything depends on the rhythm of the island. There is no fast version of life here. The work follows the seasons. The sea decides when boats can go out, and the community adapts. Because the population is so small, every person matters. Tristan da Cunha has only a little over 200 islanders, with additional workers and visitors sometimes living there as well. In a place this small, anonymity almost disappears. People know each other, families know each other. News travels quickly. Daily life is closely connected. A school is not just a school, it is part of the future of the island. A hospital is not just a hospital, it is part of the community's survival. A post office is not just a post office, it is a link to the outside world. A harbor is not just a harbor, it is the island's connection to supplies, travel, trade, and emergency support. In most places, these institutions are ordinary. On Tristan, they carry much more weight, because when the nearest major port is 6 days away, every local service becomes important. But the greatest force on Tristan da Cunha is not the ocean, it is the volcano. The island itself is volcanic. Its central peak rises dramatically from the sea, often wrapped in cloud. The beauty of the island comes from the same geological forces that make it dangerous. And in 1961, that danger became real. A volcanic eruption threatened the settlement. The entire population had to leave. Imagine that. A whole island community forced to abandon its home. Families packed what they could. They left behind houses, land, routines, animals, and the only world many of them had ever known. They were evacuated first away from the island, and eventually many were taken to England. For people from one of the most isolated places on Earth, this meant entering a completely different world. Cars, cities, crowds, modern shops, hospitals, television, noise, speed. Everything was different, and this is where the story becomes truly remarkable. Because after experiencing modern life in England, the people of Tristan da Cunha were given a choice. They could stay, they could begin again somewhere easier, somewhere connected, somewhere with roads, hospitals, shops, and airports, somewhere where supplies did not depend on a 6-day voyage across the ocean. But many of them chose to return. In 1963, the community went back to Tristan, back to the volcano, back to the ocean, back to the isolation, back to the small settlement beneath the mountain. To outsiders, that decision can seem strange. Why return to one of the most remote inhabited islands on Earth? Why go back to a place with no airport? Why choose a life where leaving takes so much effort? But home is not always the easiest place to live. Sometimes home is the place where your family history exists, where your community understands you, where the land, the sea, the weather, and the people are all part of who you are. For Tristan da Cunha, isolation is not only a challenge, it is part of identity. That is what makes Tristan so fascinating. It is not just remote, it is not just beautiful, it is not just difficult to reach, it is a living example of how humans adapt to extreme geography. In most of the world, modern life is built around speed. Fast travel, fast internet, fast shipping, fast answers, fast everything. But Tristan da Cunha reminds us that not every place moves at that speed. Some places still move with the weather, with the sea, with the arrival of a ship, with the needs of a small community. On Tristan, distance is not an abstract number on a map. Distance affects what people eat, how they work, how they travel, how they receive supplies, how they solve problems, and how they think about home. The island is small, but the story is huge. From above, Tristan da Cunha may look like a tiny dot in the Atlantic, a green volcanic island surrounded by endless blue. But that dot contains an entire world, a settlement, a school, a hospital, a harbor, farms, fishing boats, families, memories, a volcanic past. and a community that chose to return when leaving would have been easier. Most people will never visit Tristan da Cunha. Most people will never spend 6 days on a ship to reach it. Most people will only see it as a small point on a map. But maybe that is what makes it so powerful. Because some of the most interesting places on Earth are not the biggest, they are not the richest, they are not the easiest to reach. Sometimes the most interesting places are the ones that survive quietly, far beyond the routes most of us travel. Tristan da Cunha is one of those places, an island where the ocean is the road, where the weather decides, where a ship can mean connection, and where more than 200 people still call one of the world's most remote places home. So here's the question. Could you live on an island like this for 1 month? No airport, limited ships, a tiny community, and the Atlantic Ocean in every direction? Tell me in the comments.